Welcome. My name is Samuel Price, the Crypto Lifer, and every single Friday I give you the macro analysis of what's happening in the market from Bitcoin to Total 3, to Bitcoin dominance, Tether dominance, the S&P, the NASDAQ, the DXY, and even another surprise chart that I can't wait to show you. Let's deep dive. Let's break it down. Also, we're going to look at ETH BTC. I got a lot for you today. I can't wait to show you what's happening. Let's break down what's happening first here on Bitcoin. And let's jump on into the weekly chart for Bitcoin and the all-time history index. If you've been with me, I've been talking about how Bitcoin has been bullish, right? We went over the fact that Bitcoin broke nicely above this key level. If you've been watching my weekly analysis every single week, I drew a line here and I kept saying as long as a weekly candle does not close below 41,360, we will not have more downside. And what we did is we wicked lower, but we closed that candle back above, and that really told me there was some pressure to the upside. We got a golden cross here. Price action wasn't far from the 21 on the weekly, and we got a massive move to the upside. Bitcoin broke well above previous resistance here on the weekly at 47,000, and now that's likely going to be our support, maybe even here at 50,000, and even just slightly broke above this $52,000 region for a bit, and we got a resistance where we wicked to here. So we got this resistance at about $52,000. That's the area we keep hitting. Once we break above that, it's really like a really fast move to 60K, and then you're at the all-time high. There's really not much resistance for Bitcoin as we continue to head higher. So here's the question: do we head higher, or is there a big pullback coming? A lot of people are saying you can't keep going up this high. There has to be a pullback. However, we have a halving coming. We have the ETF getting bought at just in crazy levels. They're buying so much Bitcoin. I had an article I brought up in the trading group today, and it's showing, I read here on Twitter, if you look at it, just in 9 new Bitcoin ETFs now hold 258,770 Bitcoin in total, buying an average of 10,000 a day. That's 11x the daily issuance. So Bitcoin's producing Bitcoin through mining, and they're buying more than Bitcoin's creating every day. That's definitely going to create some type of scarcity for BTC. But do we get a pullback in the midst of all this is the question. I go over the TA, not just the philosophy, but the TA is still pretty bullish. Look at the 3-day chart making another green candle, even though it was looking somewhat red yesterday. Very bullish sign. The 5-day chart also above a support or resistance. You can see there's 5-day support at 50,650 here. So we got a lot of support. I wouldn't be surprised if Bitcoin went sideways in some chop, really, before its next bigger move. I'm watching the daily. The daily is my go-to right now. It's the one I believe that's going to reveal what's likely going to happen. And to me, I do my twisted sister. We're either going to do one of two things: make a falling wedge that retests like this wick, this area here, and come down to the 21 SMA, which is a little far, or we're going to drag this out and just go more sideways here, let the altcoins just absolutely start to kind of get crazy. If Bitcoin goes sideways for the next 2 weeks, the altcoins are going to rip. As long as we stay above 50,000, 50,006, and we go sideways like this, and even if we come down and get a bounce, this is a very bullish price action for Bitcoin. The bear scenario is that this is a rising wedge. The rising wedge could break down to where it began, and then we lose this high. If you lose that high, then you would assume you'd make a lower high, and then we'd start some type of trend. But right now, you have a high, you had a low, you had a higher high, you had a lower low, but then you had a higher low from there, and then you broke this high. So you had high, low, higher high. You would expect a higher low in a macro uptrend. A little bit of a pullback looks like is happening, or sideways price action for Bitcoin on this low liquidity Friday. But overall, I'm just more bullish than bearish as long as Bitcoin can stay back above these key levels. The second Bitcoin breaks below, let's say I call 50,008, 50,007. Okay, then we're going to be looking for 48,000. And if we break 48K, then I'm going to be looking for, lower prices in altcoins and starting to kind of look for cheaper places. But if Bitcoin continues to go sideways, I do not see how it's not going to stop continuing to pump. So what I would love to see is to watch these stochastics on the daily reset, all right, and have Bitcoin not lose key levels of support or resistance. If these stochastics reset and we go sideways, man. And even Bitcoin now, if you look at the 4-hour, is still in a flag for the last 24 hours. We're just going sideways. So this is what I want to see. I want to see the moving averages get closer again on the 4-hour. I want to see the 200 get pulled up. I want to see the 21 pull into price on the daily. And I want to see price continuing sideways. If we get that, very high likely I'll make another beautiful prediction in a couple weeks that we're going to head up to the upside, and we likely will. So this is my macro analysis for Bitcoin. I'd be watching the flag on the daily and the interaction with the 21-day moving average. And that's really going to kind of, and right now it is saying, hey, sideways price action is in order. We're above this resistance at 50,600, all right, for BTC. The total market cap, we talked about it getting a ripper to the upside. We just needed to break above this resistance. We got that move to the upside. We broke the resistance. That could become support now at 173, and that's what we're looking for. Even the weekly, even the high, it's got this little curve showing signs of dancing to the upside. The 3-day chart has a little more, so we want to see if we can continue up. This is the total market cap of all of cryptocurrency, okay? I want to see this continue up and hit that resistance at $2.16 trillion. We have this resistance and this resistance, but I'm game. We're not that far from the 21 on a very big time frame. As long as, and again, we could go up a little more in flag or flag out here. As long as we stay above $1.75 trillion, everybody, we are in very, very good shape. We lose 1.75, then some bearish div. We're talking about a move down, and you'll start to see me somewhat change my tune. But as long as we keep above $1.75 trillion, we have no worries. Let's look at total 3 sitting at 533 and 777s. You saw that, the 3377s, right, when I was there. It was hard to see, but it was 33777. It's weird. Whenever I do things, it's the threes and the 777s. I don't know why. Anyway, you got to take my word for it if you didn't see my shoulder was covering, but it was 33 777s. If I sit on it, stare at it, usually it turns back, But so big move, right? The idea here is that we got back above the 200 SMA on the 5-day chart. That was Bitcoin's huge move. I like to prove these things to you by showing you in the past what happened. When Bitcoin got above its 5-day 200 SMA right there, that was a huge sign that we were going to get an explosive move for Bitcoin. Same is true here with total 3. It's just getting above its 5-day, explosive move coming. Similar move for total, right? And this is a resistance point. So if you can see us break back above this key level, it's telling us that there's going to be a big move to the upside. We really want to see candles stay above here, and we don't want to revisit 514. We want to see the total altcoin market cap, excluding Bitcoin and Ethereum, stay above $513 billion. So we'd like a little more of a push. The 5-day chart says that's coming, and it says we're going to go at least to the first 647 and then all the way to the bigger target at 730. I have no reason to change this stance unless I get a 5-day candle to close below the 200 SMA. So I'm still bullish on this idea on the macro for the altcoins. And in comparison to that, we want to see what's happening to Bitcoin dominance on the weekly. Is Bitcoin dominance going to give us some love for these alts, or is it going to make it really, really hard to trade the altcoins? Right now, Bitcoin dominance suggests that it's going to continue to push to the upside as the halving continues to come into our lives. So, there's that little, lately we've been getting good love for the altcoins and Bitcoin. Like it's not like altcoin season, but the altcoins have been expanding. Right, I've been watching my portfolio go up with Bitcoin, and the altcoins are doing lovely with it, right? SUI went up. Everything boomed as Bitcoin boomed, so we've been getting good moves. We just haven't getting those, insane rallies, which we will get at one point. Right now, I'm just watching Bitcoin dominance just consolidate here, but, I wouldn't be surprised if it just continues further. So the weekly suggests, a little bit of this, but the weekly showing signs of a move to the upside for Bitcoin dominance, which tells me that it's really just not altcoin season yet. And it may not be altcoin season until somewhere after, this is saying, until we hit a bigger target, maybe somewhere into August. But regardless, we are getting love for the altcoins. I want to make that clear. My altcoin portfolio is going up, and there are alts pumping behind the scenes that are doing damage. There's a lot of money in the market, and people aren't freaked out yet. It's a good sign. If the Bitcoin was tanking, people wouldn't be wanting trading alts so much, right? Right now, this is a great sign. Look at the daily. It says we're about, look, that was a little alt season, these are mini. So it looks like we're going to get to what I call alt relief, a little bit Bitcoin relief. So Bitcoin, can you go sideways, right, for the next week? And can we get maybe 10, 12 days of alt season? This looks really good setting up for the weekend this weekend that we maybe be able to start trading alts this weekend as the daily's setting up to pull back on Bitcoin dominance. Let's take a look at Tether dominance. We want to see that also dumping on the daily. I'm sitting there on the 1 minute, right, looking at it. But look, it got beat down on the daily. It got sold off so much. That tells me, I don't know, it's not the best time, to sell my Tether. I'd like to be selling Tether at the beginning of the dump, but it is still dumping. And if it pulls back, how strong will the pullback be? That's my question. The 3-day chart still has, bearish moves too, and still has momentum to the downside. This thing could continue to collapse. People are selling off their Tether at a mass rate. Why do you want to hold Tether attached to the dollar when they're printing the dollar to zero, right? And look, I mean, key level. You lose this level, you're dropping down to test 484, and you lose 44, you may be dropping down to 377. So these are key areas that I'd be watching very, very closely for Bitcoin dominance. And I don't look, swing down, that swing down. I don't even get a nice divergence on the daily telling us that we may get a stopover. So I'd be looking for a bear flag continuation on anywhere between the 1 hour and the 4 hour based on what I'm seeing here. And this is what I see happening, you know. A little bit of bullish did, but it really didn't do much. So I see this as a bear flag, and I want to see this drop and continue to the downside. This drops this weekend with Bitcoin dominance dropping. We're going to get some love for these altcoins. The DXY, shoulder, head, right shoulder. We talked about it over and over again. We want to see that thing in a head and shoulder pattern, and we want to see it get rejected. It's crazy. Bitcoin's been pumping. The DXY has been up. The DXY has been pumping. Look, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 straight weeks now. So it's been kind of somewhat pumping with Bitcoin, right? Bitcoin has been up and down, right? But for the most part, we are higher than we were. We're at a very high level, 50K. And so the DXY has been pumping with Bitcoin. You know, usually they don't. They're uncorrelated. But I always told you they can be correlated because it's against a basket of foreign assets. And if people are getting out of those assets and back into the dollar, then it's going to propel the dollar to pump as Bitcoin also pumps. In general, over time, they'll eventually be inversely correlated, meaning the dollar will dump when Bitcoin pumps. But right now, wow. However, the weekly getting very high with Bitcoin getting low on the weekly. At one point, this is going to flip, and then the dollar is going to start giving it back again, and Bitcoin's going to be ready to take control. I look at the daily, and the daily's getting very overbought in a rising wedge here and wants to collapse. This is a key resistance point right there too as well. And I can open up this. So it's like we're at the top of the trend. It's the right shoulder. This would be absolutely beautiful if we start to drop now here. We're very overbought. The daily wants to tank. However, so does Bitcoin's daily. They're both very overbought, right? Does the dollar dumb with Bitcoin, you know? And I could see it. You never know. But, well, you know, best case scenario, regardless if they dump together for a little bit, we still just want to see the dollar continuing to lose value. That's going to help altcoins, real estate, stock market, everything. And it's suggesting, so if the dollar breaks here and starts to pump up, it's going to be, you know, definitely a pullback for the stock market and Bitcoin and altcoins. If the dollar starts to drop here and even starts to curve aggressively, we know we're going to have a nice couple of weeks to a month of another rally. So I'm excited. It's setting up pretty nicely for, you know, some money in the alts and some money in Bitcoin here as we enter in to the month of March, or the last 2 weeks of February and the month of March. But, you know, we basically want to see these next 2 weeks set up for what's going to happen into March. The S&P, I told you they're going to continue to print money. I did not expect the pullback. Everyone else was freaking out. Tiny pullback. They brought it back up. Sideways price action. Look at the daily. Reset pretty nicely in a flag. Look for this to flag out and continue to the upside. My next target for the S&P is going to be the length of this pole as we break out. Look for us to touch 52.82. I wouldn't be surprised if we're halfway there when I come out next week, or at least the flag is fully full. The last time we were live was right there, right? Because it only takes 5 days. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We get less price action on the S&P than Bitcoin. We get 2 more days every time. But look for this to go sideways, create a nice flag. I do see some bearish div, but we're getting oversold on the stochastics on the daily, telling me that this likely wants to flag out. And it could be one of two things. We don't know if it's going to be a descending. We don't know exactly how the flag's going to play. We just know we're going to see a flag. I see when I come back next week, macro, this is sideways, and we're talking about the flag ready to break out to the upside. Same thing with the NASDAQ, but the NASDAQ's in more of a bit of a rising wedge here. And, you know, rising wedges break down 6 to 8% of the time. However, getting overbought with the curve on the daily. So same thing here is I pull this out and say, hey, can we continue in the lateral flag? Previous resistance became support. We seem to be holding pretty nicely now at 17,361, and we've ripped all the way back up. I told you we're going to continue to print here too, and this was going to continue to pump. I've been saying it every single week ever since I pulled off this big cup and handle, talked about the hidden bullish on the 3-day, and I called the reversal for the S&P and the NASDAQ, if you were watching my macro analysis. I'm still bullish, same as the S&P. Sideways price action. Looks like when we come back next week, I'm going to be talking about the flag right here, and 5 candles will have filled out the flag. Sol for Ethereum is the last thing I want to talk about. It's been beaten up on ETH. If you got in down here in October, you would have dang near 4 extra Ethereum with Solana. Solana's been unbelievable. Yes, ETH has moved, but Solana has moved even better. As long as this holds this key level here and we reset, looks like Solana can beat up on ETH again. And 1 Ethereum in Solana looks like it could turn into 1.75 ETH. So I'm watching Sol pretty closely. and checking that out. And the last thing I want to look at is ETH BTC for you on the Binance chart. Keeps getting beat up. People are more positive about this chart than I think they should be. ETH really keeps losing market share to Bitcoin and getting beat. It's been losing ever since here it peaked really in December of 2021. ETH has been falling fast. With the ETF and what's happening to Bitcoin, it's making a frenzy. Now, ETH will get its ETF, and I think that will propel it to the upside. May 23rd is the talks of the date that's going to happen. I see ETH still falling a little more against Bitcoin, likely to test one or two of these key levels here at 0.4646, or maybe even right here at 3.717. It doesn't look like we're out the water yet, and it's time to definitely load from Bitcoin back into Ethereum yet. I could still see a lower low here for ETH BTC. In the long run, yeah, we've made a higher low slowly in a bit of an uptrend. And in general, I do believe once this breaks out and Bitcoin, we get into alt season, ETH will begin to propel further than Bitcoin. You just want to, I want to allocate at the perfect time so I can take advantage of it and get the most. And that would be about almost 2x on my Bitcoin if I put it into Ethereum, right? And so that's the macro analysis for Bitcoin. Total 3, Bitcoin dominance, Tether dominance, DXY, the S&P, the NQ, Sol versus Ethereum, and Ethereum BTC. Everybody, thank you so much for watching my macro weekly analysis. Come back every single week to zoom out, calm down, and get a big picture of what's happening so you don't get caught up in the smaller time frames, in the emotions of the news, the nonsense, and just the fun. Please comment, like, and subscribe. Hit the bell for notifications. You can find out when I post my next video. Remember, if you came to the channel, then you're already doing the right thing. Crypto is life.